Hello everyone, welcome to this new webcast series on cat. So today I really wanted to start this new series on infectious diseases in catteries and what you guys can do, what cat breeders can do to prevent those infectious diseases in their catteries, etc. Because that's a very big concern, and I'm sure if you go to cat shows, etc., you're a little bit scared of germs, and that's totally normal because cats are highly predisposed to develop infectious diseases. And this is what we're going to touch on during this series of 5 short webcasts. So without further ado, let's jump to the slide deck that I prepared for today's episode. Up. Okay, so the first thing I would like to touch on in this series is on what we call sanitary prophylaxis. Prophylaxis is, in fact, it means the measures you take to prevent diseases to impact the health of your animals. So, and the first part is really on what we call sanitary prophylaxis, what we refer to as sanitation, hygiene. And I'm going to show you that there are very simple things you can take to in, decrease the risk of those issues in your cattery. But first of all, why is it different in catteries? Why, if you decide to breed cats, is it going to be different than if you have 2 cats at home? Simply because it's a very basic law of epidemiology. This law here that I unfortunately cannot pronounce in English because I have no idea how to say it. You know that you guys know that I'm French, but let's think about it. If you have 2 cats at home, basically this one can infect the other one and vice versa. So based on this formula here, the epidemiological risk equals 2. Now, if you have 4 cats at home, you see that there are much more potential interactions between these cats. The risk to transmit infectious diseases is higher. And if you think about it, this is for 4 cats. You see here we have an epidemiological risk equal 12. If you have 20 cats living together, look at how high it can be, close to 400. So basically tells you that, and that's the same thing each time we deal with a community. It could be dog, it could be humans, it could be cats. Each time we have several individuals living together, if any pathogen enter this community, if any pathogen in your case enter the cattery, the risk for this disease to spread, the risk for infectious disease to spread is way higher. And that's something cats are highly predisposed to, because I'm sure you know that cats are supposed to be lonely hunters when they don't do well in groups. Well, some of them do, but it's not the norm. And when you put all those cats together, there's a higher risk for infectious diseases to develop. So what can we do? And in order to protect your cattery, I'm going to tell you a little story. And in fact, not a little story, but I'm going to introduce you to somebody. Asclepius, god of medicine and healing in ancient Greece. You guys probably know that I'm a small animal reproduction specialist, and I can tell you that this guy wouldn't need me to wouldn't need my help, because he was very fertile. He had 6 daughters. One of them was called Panacea, goddess of the universal remedy, and the other one was called Ig, goddess of health, cleanliness, and sanitation. As I said, he had 6 daughters, but 2 of them, these 2 ones, are very famous. So why am I telling you about Asclepius and his daughters today during this talk on sanitary prophylaxis in catteries? Simply to show you that even in ancient Greece, medicine was based on 2 main pillars: the drugs, the treatment, the medical treatment, this is panacea, and the hygiene, the cleanliness, the sanitation. This part, and I can. This comes back to something very simple. I can give you the best medical treatment ever. If you're not able to control the environment in which your animals are living, it's pointless, because many of these diseases are resistant in the environment. So transmission can occur through the environment. So you can treat these animals, but they can become sick again because some pathogens are still remaining in the environment. Anything related to treatment, we're going to touch on it a little bit in the next webcast, but this is the job of your veterinarian. For you as cat breeders, this is what you need to focus on. You really need to pay a lot of attention to cleanliness and sanitation in your cattery. And that sounds trivial, but I really insist on that every time we do these talks, because again, this is what you guys are in charge, and this is where you guys can make a very, very big difference for your animal's health. You need to have clear protocols to use inside your cattery to optimize their health. And that's what we're going to discuss now, because there are some mistakes I often see when I visit catteries. The first thing you need to know and the first thing you need to do is to be able to make a clear difference between cleaning and disinfecting, because those two words mean two totally different things. Cleaning, when you clean, you target what we call physical cleanliness. You want to remove the dirt. In the case of cats, you want to remove the stools, you want to remove any contaminating material like feces, urine, hair, etc. You want to remove the organic matter. And to do that, you need a good soap, something that makes bubbles, something that's going to scrub the surfaces and remove this organic matter. But you target physical cleanliness. It's dirty, you clean, and then it's clean. You have removed the organic matter. But after cleaning, you haven't destroyed most of the pathogens because they're usually resistant to cleaning. This is why you need to do disinfection. You need to disinfect those surfaces after cleaning. And when you disinfect, you target what we call microbiological cleanliness. You want to destroy the remaining pathogens in the environment. And for that, you need a good disinfectant. And this is where it is critical, because a good disinfectant, let's take an example, bleach is a good disinfectant, but many disinfectants are inefficient when they are put on organic matter. The common mistake I see when I visit a cattery is that when I ask about the cleaning and disinfecting protocol, I am told that they use bleach, for instance, which again is a very good disinfectant. But when they use bleach, when I ask them to explain me how they use it, they just take the bleach, put it in the bucket, dilute it with water, and use it directly. It's used, in fact, it's just a simple one-step procedure that they do, while cleaning and disinfecting is always a two-step procedure. Always, you first need to clean to remove the dirt, and then in a second step, use your disinfectant. Because if you start, for instance, with bleach only, you will think you're protected while you're not, because bleach will have been inactivated by the organic matter that remains in the environment. Again, the stools, the urine, the air of your animals, etc. So it's really important to clean first and then disinfect when it comes to your structures. And to illustrate that, just to show you a little video. So this is my beautiful animation for cat poop. And on the cat poop, usually you will find lots of pathogens, bacteria, viruses, protozoas, those pathogens that can potentially cause diarrhea. And well, especially the bacteria, they multiply themselves on these species, and they will create what we call a biofilm, a layer that will protect them against external agents like your disinfectants, like the UVs, etc. If you use a disinfectant, again, if you use bleach to remove this, well, you will remove the organic matter for sure, but you see that your disinfectant didn't kill most of the bacteria. They're still here. Remember, most of the disinfectants, well, not most, the disinfectants are inactivated by organic matter. So this is a big no-no. You shouldn't use a disinfectant to clean. Again, bleach is not a cleaner. It shouldn't be used to clean. It should be used to disinfect after cleaning first. So first you need to use a good soap, a good detergent. Very often in catteries, I tell people, if you want to go for a cheap alternative but an efficient one, use dish soap. It makes bubbles, it will scrub the surfaces, it will remove the organic matter, and that's what you want at first. You want to remove this organic matter so that then when you will do the disinfection, it will be much more efficient. So you see something that makes bubbles that will remove most of the organic matter, so that then you can use your disinfectant safely and efficiently, so that it will destroy some of the remaining pathogens. You see that there are still some pathogens left. Keep in mind that in your catteries, you cannot target zero pathogen in the environment. Your cleaning and disinfection protocol is here to maintain the levels of pathogen under a certain threshold, so that your animals are not overexposed, because they get sick when they get overexposed. So you just need to keep those numbers of pathogens down as much as possible, but there will always be some of them. So but if you do a good cleaning and disinfecting protocol, this is the best way to protect your cattery. And again, when we use a disinfectant, it's important to keep in mind that we need the right product for the right target. So just to give you an idea, here I put some of the most common disinfectant we see today in catteries: bleach, quaternary ammoniums, those products which are called ammonium something, all those ones. Potassium peroxymonosulfate is one we see quite often in catteries nowadays, and one of the most interesting one, I think, accelerated hydrogen peroxide. AHP, they've become the norm in human medicine today, because they're fast acting. But you see, let me show you. So you see here the spectrum of actions regarding some of the most common pathogen we find in catteries: parvo, calicivirus, ringworm, giardia, coccidia. And look, you see that some of them can be very interesting alternatives in catteries. Some of them are efficient against what I call the big three: parvovirus, which causes panleukopenia in cats; calicivirus, which is part of the upper resp syndrome; and ringworm, which I don't need to present because most cat breeders are aware of ringworm. And anyway, we'll touch on this in one of our webcasts on this topic. So what you can see here is that you need a specific disinfectant for a specific target, and there's no perfect disinfectant. So there are always some pathogens that are resistant to some disinfectants. So that's why when we face one of those diseases that are resistant in the environment, one of the things I tell you veterinarians, or I'll tell you guys, when we identify first we need to identify the target, and when we identify the target, we can have a look at your cleaning and disinfection protocol. So sure, you first need to clean and disinfect. That's something mandatory. But then we can adapt the product you're using based on the target we're fighting. And that's a very, very critical step in terms of sanitary prophylaxis. One thing also to keep in mind: sectorize, because this is the kind of typical sectorization we see from time to time in catteries. And you see here, here you have several kittens which are housed in different crates. So obviously, if they're coughing, if they're sneezing, if they have diarrhea, it's very easy for them to contaminate the other kittens around, because there's no real sectorization. So you need clear sectors in your cattery. And when I'm saying that, I know that many people breed at home. So basically, your cats live with you. And you might think that it's very difficult to have a dedicated cattery, rooms for the specific individuals, etc. In fact, I just gave you the answer. You don't need to, you can just use a specific room. I think it's important to have a room to isolate cats if they're sick. It's good to have a room to do some quarantine. It's always good to have a maternity, a place where you can isolate the mom and the kittens right after birth, because they are very fragile. So it's possible to sectorize. When you have, let's say, more than 10 cats, or it's important, I think, to have a dedicated cattery. But even if you have fewer cats than that, you can still sectorize in your own home to better prevent these infectious diseases. And when you sectorize, it's important to make the difference between low risk area. So for instance, where you have the adults, the maternity, the nursery, these are individuals that live inside your cattery. So they are used to the germs you have in your cattery, because as you know, you have germs in your cattery, whatever happens. So, but they're developing an immunity against the germs from your cattery. So these are considered at low risk compared to these other sectors, like if you have a boarding cattery, or if you have an office where you receive your customers, your clients to that are coming to buy your kittens. The quarantine area, make a clear it's important to make a difference between quarantine and isolation. In quarantine, your animals are healthy. You are observing them to see if they're going to get sick. And typically, this is something important to do when you introduce a new cat inside your cattery. First, quarantine them, observe what's going to happen, observe if they're going to get sick, and then introduce them in your low risks area where you have your cats that are already used to your cattery. But this high risk area and this low risk area, it's important that they don't cross each other. So it's important, for instance, if you have a boarding cattery, that you don't board those cats in the middle of your adults, because those cats that are coming from the outside, they are exposed to different kind of germs. They are exposed to a very different environment that your cats might not be used to. So if you mix them together, then there's a risk for your cats to get sick as well. And same thing for the other sectors. So it's important to sectorize and to clearly make a clear division between those high risk zones and those low risk zones. Animals shouldn't cross those different sectors. And whatever happen inside your cattery, always rationalize foot traffic. So as I said, most of the cat breeders, they breed from home and they have 2, 3, 4 cats. But remember, even if you have 2, 3, 4 cats, you can sectorize. You can have a dedicated room that will be the maternity. You can have a dedicated room that will be the quarantine. And when you have those different rooms, you need to rationalize how you move from one sector to the other. For instance, let's say you have a maternity, a nursery, adults, infirmary, quarantine. It's obvious that whatever you do, especially when it comes to cleaning and disinfecting, please don't start cleaning the quarantine before moving to the maternity, because then remember, quarantine is very, very at risk area, because you don't really know what the individuals in quarantine can develop. So always rationalize foot traffic. Move from the zone which is supposed to be the safest, where the animals must be the more protected, for instance, the maternity, and progressively move to the more at-risk areas. This applies to when you move inside your cattery. This applies when somebody visits your cattery. If you have somebody visiting you, they should always start visiting the maternity first and with the quarantine, and they should never go back then to the maternity. So, and this is the same thing when you clean and disinfect. First you start to clean the maternity and you end with cleaning the quarantine. This is a very simple concept that, again, we can apply even if you breed from home. So that's what I wanted to tell you during this first webinar, first webcast. It's not a webinar way longer, on this first webcast on feline infectious disease. So as you see, there are very simple things you can do from inside your cattery, things you guys are in charge of, that can make a big difference and can help you better control infectious diseases. And one of the main thing I really insist on is the difference between cleaning and disinfecting. Remember, cleaning is not, if you use bleach, which is one of the most common product used for disinfection, it's a disinfectant, it's not a cleaner. I really insist on that, because this is one of the most common mistake I see in catteries. So this is the end of this first webcast. I hope you learned a few things. I hope this will make you focus more on sanitation, on the sanitation part of your cattery. Don't hesitate if you have any question. Again, we discuss this topic a lot in my blog. We discuss it a lot over internet, over social media. So don't hesitate to jump in the conversation. I'm easy to find. If you have any question, feel free to contact me. Thank you very much, guys, for watching this webcast, and I hope to see you soon for the episode 2, which will focus on medical prophylaxis this time. Bye-bye.